Marketer of the Day, number 410. The Secrets to Money, Power, and Love Prosperity with Lucas Lehman. Hey everyone, and thanks for listening. We're talking right now with Lucas Lehman, and Lucas speaks and leads seminars on personal power and intimacy all over the US, Sweden, and Canada, and he's a certified neurotransformational coach. He's a certified sacred sexuality educator, and he's the author of the forthcoming book, Mastering the 7 Principles of Sex and Money and Power for an Extraordinary Life. So, Mr. Lucas, glad to be talking to you.
Thank you. Great to be here, Robert.
Great to have you, and you're very welcome. And so yeah, like all this like sort of self-help stuff, like I used to think it was silly because I used to think, oh, well, I'm just a computer person, I'm just making websites, I'm just building my business. I thought to myself, like, what do I really need? Things aren't that bad with me. But then, there were life's ups and downs, and I always heard about stuff like, Tony Robbins and people like that. And I was like, oh, that's just like, power or positive thinking stuff, or that's just silly affirmation stuff. And I ignored it. And then after a while, I kind of looked into like NLP and stuff like that, and I realized at a certain point that I'm like, oh yeah, like some of the simplified, like the Tony Robbins stuff, it's just like an NLP but made so anyone can understand it. And then even a few years later, I realized, it doesn't even really matter if I think some sort of self-help, personal development stuff is cheesy or weird or not usually my thing. I mean, what the heck does that matter? Just like try different tools, listen to different things, and then go with what works for you. And so I kind of threw out all that at you, Mr. Lucas, because like, I don't know, like, do you see something similar to that? People either looking away from personal development or self-help stuff because they think it's too cheesy or doesn't apply to them or they don't need it or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of the above. There's this notion that I'm fine. I guess in some ways it's the word self-help is problematic. And in our culture, we have a story that healthy people or successful people don't ask for help, that somehow to be powerful means that you do everything on your own. And so therefore, even the word help implies weakness, or there's something wrong with me. And so there's an aversion to that word. But we all need help. A different way to think of it is if you're a musician, and I'm a musician, and you want to be a better musician, then you would hire a mentor or some other musician to help you get better, because you can practice by yourself in a vacuum for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and not get any better. Whereas when you ask for help, that's how we get better. So that's really the shift there. Do you think you know everything yourself, or is there other information out there that can help you have a more fulfilling, satisfying life? And what are those tools? And I think we all can have a more satisfying life, because what happens is there's a whole realm of possibility beyond what our thinking mind already knows exists. So how do we find out what that is? What Gay Hendricks calls our upper limit, that we have an experience of, here's what's available in life. Oh, I've got that, so I don't need any help. But what's next? What's more expansive? There's no limit to that.
Right. Awesome. And I agree completely. And I think maybe when I was a teenager, I thought I knew everything. But then a couple years later, I was like, I definitely don't know everything. And then even if I've heard this or that, as far as like, being more creative or being more motivated or being in a better state, even if I had heard something years ago, it might have been something that I had heard it and not implemented it, or heard it and used it, and then I forgot about it because I backslid or something like that. So yeah, I mean, I agree completely. I'm always on the lookout for any way to up my game. And then you think about these top athletes like your Tiger Woods or your Michael Jordan, they all had some sort of like a hypnosis or multiple coaches in different areas to help them at the top of their game. So I'm right there with you. I agree completely. And so you have this book coming out about the 7 principles of sex, money, and power. And so can you kind of tell us about this book and what it's all about?
Yeah. So really, I've been sort of distilling this concept of what makes a fulfilling life, what makes a satisfying life. And it kind of comes down to, these are sort of the big pillars of what is really life all about. And when I say sex, I don't mean just sex. I mean intimacy, emotional well-being, what I think of as like sexual energy or our life force energy, our aliveness, our vitality, our creativity, and it all kind of sources from that part of our body. But I don't know what your familiarity is with like chakras and energy fields or whatever, but that's really like the source of our desire. And interestingly enough, Napoleon Hill, famous for Think and Grow Rich, says that desire is the first step to all achievement. Which is very different than want. And in our world today, we're mostly operating from this place of want. That's a place of lack. So if we're talking about how do I have the most amazing life, well, first of all, I need to move from lack into desire. And how do I build my desire? That's really about from my point of view, how am I leaking energy in that area of my life force energy? So there's sexual shame, there's intimacy issues, there's my unexplored creativity, my limiting beliefs about myself is all kind of packed in there in what I'm calling sex. Obviously, I'm using sex because it's a short word and it gets people's attention, but it's much deeper than that to me. Ultimately, it kind of it reveals itself in satisfying, connected, heart-connected lovemaking with a beloved. You're going to be healthy and whole in a certain way to enable that. Money, again, another big issue. People are always focusing on money, and I think that's really the bigger issue is what I call prosperity. And prosperity is more than just financial prosperity. It also includes our physical prosperity, that if you don't have health and energy and vitality, then all the money in the world is going to be useless. And then power, in some ways, is the sort of all-encompassing term. And my definition of power is the ability to manifest my desires with ease. So how do I do all of that, and what are the sort of fundamental building blocks for me to focus my attention so that I can continue to expand? Because life by definition is about expansion. So back to where we first started, wherever I am in my life, how do I go to the next level? I need to learn something. I need to grow somehow. I need to release something. I need to heal something, or we just stay where we are.
Right, and that staying where you are, that's pretty scary stuff, and I can definitely relate to a lot of that. And I don't know anything about chakras or cleansing the aura or the chi or any of that sort of stuff, but I definitely can relate to those times when maybe when the relationship or the sex life wasn't that great, the business suffered. If the business wasn't doing that great, then I was distracted or stressed out, or just mine was on other things, and then the relationship suffered. So I can definitely relate to these different kinds of things interconnecting, and if one thing's good, the other thing's not, or maybe like the money's good for a while, but there's not really any passion in there, and it's a hollow victory for now until everything else catches up with us. And a lot of the people listening are sort of work at home entrepreneurs, internet marketers, people like that, and I imagine that a lot of them have health issues just from not being active, not getting out there, and just kind of taking things for granted and letting things slide day after day until the next thing you know, there's like just years of wasted productivity, which to me sounds like sort of a scary place to be. And so this book has these 7 principles, and can you kind of like explain to us what these 7 principles are?
Sure. So the first principle is what I call presence, and presence is kind of a hard word to describe, but it certainly starts with coming present to what is. And for me to live an extraordinary life, for me to grow, I have to come into acceptance of where I am and even love myself here. Now, it doesn't mean that I have to like it, but for example, I do a lot of coaching around intimacy, and women particularly, and there might be a story that I'm not lovable until I lose 25 pounds, that I'm not going to be able to find a partner because I'm overweight. I need to lose 25 pounds. So that creates a place where the person is actually withholding love from themselves, and they're not okay until they get to some future place. So they're living into some future. And then, so now my desire to lose weight is so that I'm gonna suffer in the present so that I can get to some future where I'm worthy of love, is really what that's about. And that's why people are able to stay on diets for a while, and then they, even if they hit their goal, then they fall off it, because it's coming from a place of lacking of love, as opposed to, I love myself the way I am right now. I'm capable of love and being loved right now, and I would like to lose 25 pounds. That's a shift in coming presence to accepting that I don't necessarily like this thing about myself, but I'm worthy of loving myself. And it's the ability of being with what's here right now. And our whole culture is why this is the most important thing, is we're in a state of distraction. We're in a state of constantly looking for something to take me away from feeling whatever it is that I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling a little frustrated, or I can't focus on this chapter that I'm trying to write. Let me go get another cup of coffee, or check an email, or an email comes in and distracts me, or even I even think of how our mode of communication now is texting, wherein we're never actually present with the person that we're communicating. There's a disconnect. I'm doing this, and then they're responding. Whereas back in the day, we used to actually talk on the phone. Now we're present, when, listening to each other. And so there's this whole thing. It's almost like we're afraid to be present. I don't like what I'm feeling, so I'm going to take a pill. Half the country's on antidepressants. So what is it? Because we don't want to come present to what the self-judgment is really underneath it, that I'm not okay, and I won't be okay until I make $100,000, till I lose 25 pounds, till I have a new boyfriend, till I have a great job. And that's so painful, we don't want to be with it.
Interesting, and I can relate to that, and I've thought those things, and I think I still think that way on occasion until I catch myself, that sort of if then kind of thinking of something's wrong, and if only this one thing was fixed, and I'd be happy, and then it turns out, well, you fix that thing, you're still not happy. So it sounds like the solution, going back to the Napoleon Hill Think and Grow Rich stuff, is just this abundance mindset. And I mean, it is what it is. Not everything has to be that the world's going against you. It sounds like the problem is that people, since they're distracted, they're not present, they haven't even taken that inventory of where the problem is. And if only they'd start to bring those problems into the light and confront them for what they are, then they could begin to chip away at them. But it sounds like a lot of it's just, pushing things off for a later date, or ignoring things and hoping that they'll just go away on their own, it sounds like.
Well, I think it's even deeper than that. I think it's we want instant gratification, and if we don't have that, then it's painful, and we're not okay being with pain or discomfort. That you hear about people who, their parents die, and they're grieving, and so then they go on antidepressants. Well, grieving is a natural process, and it's okay to be sad for an extended period of time. It's actually what's needed. By not allowing the emotional body to process what's going on, you don't get through it. All you're doing is suppressing it, so it never goes away. And so then you're constantly looking for these quick fixes, and then you're on these kind of addictive cycles of I'm going to eat sugar. Sugar's going to make me, I'm not feeling good right now. I'm feeling kind of cranky. Okay, I'll eat some sugar. Well, I feel good for the next 10 minutes, but now I'm on this sugar cycle. Or coffee. If someone wakes up in the morning and oh, I'm not myself until I have my first cup of coffee. Well, in some ways, you're never yourself at all, because you're in relationship with these chemicals that are flowing through your system. Cigarette smokers are the classic, right? So they get this I'm feeling uncomfortable. The solution is I smoke the cigarette. Oh, now I feel good again. But ultimately, I'm masking what's really going on, is that I'm not actually comfortable just being present with myself.
Interesting. So it sounds like a lot of quick fixes, a lot of band-aids. It sounds like the choice could either be to be uncomfortable now, comfortable later, but instead they're going for the quick, comfortable fix now, which gets you by for a while. But what do you do if this issue isn't handled? What do you do if there's these two, three, four addictions? If it all piles up, it seems like at some point it's all just gonna explode.
Right, exactly. And then ultimately you're not actually in relationship with yourself or your higher purpose or what you're really here to experience. It's all in reaction to these different addictions or these different distractions.
So if people find themselves stuck in all and just all like a ton of little minor addictions, a ton of little minor distractions, always checking the phone, always drinking the coffee, always smoking the cigarette or whatever. I mean, how do people get out from under all of this mess?
Yeah, well, it's tricky. I mean, that's why I think our culture is in a state of dis-ease, because it's going the wrong way. There's all this distraction, these addictions, and the solution is more noise, more distraction. Well, I'll go on Facebook and post how great my latte looks or whatever people are doing, and you hear the stories that the longer time people are spending on Facebook trying to get connection, the more miserable they actually feel because they're not connected with themselves. And so it's a revolution in what are we here to do? And it's actually scary because there's going to be some discomfort, because underneath that discomfort is usually going to be some amount of self-judgment that I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, there's something wrong with me. So I don't want to feel that. Those are really painful things to feel. So I want to find a boyfriend who treats me like shit so I can blame him. It's much easier to be upset at this other person who treats me badly than to recognize the reason why I'm with someone who treats me badly is because underneath it all, I'm treating myself badly. And look at all these things that I'm doing because I don't like myself. And so that's the step. That's the choice, is to say, oh, I'm not liking how I'm in relationship with myself, and here's all these things that I'm doing to distract myself, medicate myself, or whatever, but I'm getting farther and farther away. There's no that doesn't lead me to some happy solution.
So does all this mean that it stems from low self-esteem, or is it something else? Because it sounds like it keeps coming back to all of these, addictions, distractions, bad habits, bad behaviors. It seems like these are all symptoms of the thing at the core, and it seems like it keeps coming back to, well, if I don't value myself, I don't love myself, I'm not going to treat my mind and my body like very well, and I'm going to maybe make bad life decisions without even realizing it. Is it all just stemming from low self-esteem or something else?
Well, low self-esteem is a funny word because I think because there are plenty of people who think highly, who have high self-esteem, if you will, but it's what I think it's about conditional love to myself, and that so someone might say, well, I don't have low self-esteem. I make $100,000 running this company, and I have a beautiful house and a beautiful wife, or whatever. But take those trappings away, their self-esteem, if you will, is built on these external symbols of their success. And as soon as that is eliminated, their actual value of just being a human being, we don't learn to value ourselves unless particularly for men, unless we're winning. Like how often does it happen, back during the recession, you hear about like these two income families, right? And if she gets laid off, then she's like, okay, well, I'll just stay home and be with the kids, and that's fine. But if he got laid off, it's not okay. His worthiness is only based on whether he's able to like take care of his family and bring home the bacon. Of course, I'm making an exaggeration. That's not always true, but you certainly hear about the stories. He lost his job, and suddenly 6 months later, there's divorced, and he's a piece of crap because he feels like a piece of crap. He doesn't have to feel like a piece of crap, But that's what happens is like his self-esteem is built on the fact of whether he's getting that check. And as soon as you take that check away, his connection to, because the presence is also the it's our doorway to spirit. Because if I become present, what I really become aware of is that famous sort of I think it's Deepak Chopra line. I'm not a human being having a spiritual experience. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. And so from that place, whatever's happening in this moment is okay. But if I'm a human being, oh, I occasionally have a spiritual experience, but ultimately I don't feel connected to all that is. I don't feel connected to my eternal self. I don't feel connected that I'm here for a purpose, and that purpose is about who I am, not what I'm doing.
Okay, so it sounds like people just sort of they associate the wrong things. They associate their happiness or their success with something like they've like their job or their business or something external that if and when that goes away, or if there's like a slow couple of months in the business or something like that, because they've made that link, if like at first they say, okay, well, there's this impressive thing I've made, I'll connect my myself to that. But then if the business goes under, then it's like now it's dragging you down with it, it sounds like.
Right, exactly. And back to presence, the only thing that's real is this present moment. Yesterday, when you had your $1 million a year job, is not real. And tomorrow, when you get another job, or when your worst fears come true, or whatever, that's not real. The only thing that's real is right now. You're living, you're breathing, your heart is pumping, you're a beautiful, wonderful human being. But our minds, our egos judge ourselves that that is not so. I don't know if you've read Eckhart Tolle in his book, The Power of Now. I love this line. He goes like, do you have a problem right now? Right? So no, right now I'm breathing. I have enough food to eat. I'm alive. The rest is just story that I'm making up. I might have a problem tomorrow, or I might run out of money in 3 months. Okay, that's not presence. That's a projection into the future. What's present? Oh, what's present is I am a loving, beautiful human being, right? Well, now I can do something from that place because I'm in a place of expansion. I'm in a place of love. I'm in a place of possibility. If I'm in a place of future projection, then I'm in a place of fear, and then I'm not able to access my creativity. I'm living in my lower reptilian part of my brain, and that's where most people are living most of the time. They're operating from fear, and I'm going to do this thing because I'm afraid that underneath it all, I'm not really worthy of love unless I have this thing to show for it. And
Interesting.
that's building your reality on a house of cards.
Yeah, I agree. It's sort of trippy, but also I can definitely, it makes me think back to times where I've messed up, or I've thought too much about the past, or stressed too much about some big bill or something I had to do coming up, and then and I mean just driving myself crazy, getting myself anxious, stressed out, worked up for no reason, just for this thing that was yet to come, when I mean I wasn't even enjoying the present moment right now. Sort of scary stuff.
Right, exactly. So that even when we're succeeding, even when you feel this, it's like the people that you know who are making money, they don't have enough. In some ways, the treadmill starts spinning faster because, oh, how am I gonna, now I got this lifestyle that I have to maintain, and if I lose this thing, I'm gonna be even more devastated. The people jumping out the window when the stock market crashes. What's that about?
Just too worked up, wound up too tight, it sounds like.
Run
And
up
but
tight on things that are external rather than what is really going on here. And if you want to make up that what's really going on here is this king of the hill survival thing, well, that's not the person that I'm working with. I'm working with people who are trying to shift the story from fear and survival into what is thriving feel like? What does it look like? Where does that start? And that starts It all starts with presence. Everything builds from there because if you're not present, then you're building this mansion on sand that can be washed away at any second. Whereas if you're building your reality on like, oh, everything is okay right now, what do I want to do from this place? And if I don't feel that everything is okay right now, it's not a question that I need to fix something out there. It's that I need to go, what do I need to get myself out of fear in this moment back into love?
So is there a way to be present and love yourself and be happy and all that stuff, but also have the motivation, the drive, deadlines, urgency, things like that to also get things done quickly? Because I know that like there are definitely been times like, for example, like maybe in school or something when I was rushing to meet a deadline and all that, and it wasn't fun, but I still got a lot of things accomplished. So is it possible to kind of have our cake and eat it too? Can we be present and be happy and satisfied and fulfilled and all that good stuff, but also be super duper productive at the same time?
I love that question because people, if the fear was gone, would I be motivated? Is sort of what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so my belief is that fear is a motivator for survival. Desire is the motivator for thriving. And
Cool.
desire is much quieter and comes from a place of fullness. So of course we're here to do something. But how do I align with that? How do I come from that place of oh, I'm healthy? What's it might be a different thing that I'm motivated to do. But
Okay.
right, but I'm certainly here to like if I'm in a place of thriving of then my desire might be to be generous. My desire might be to help less fortunate people or whatever, something that actually might be a higher vibration versus if I'm coming from a place of fear of I don't have enough money, then I certainly don't have enough money to be generous to somebody who has less than I do. I got to go make some more money, and then I got to get a Ferrari because I want a beautiful woman to love me and validate that I'm a worthy human being. It's a completely different motivational thing, and you can feel the difference of the experience of how we move through life. There's still things that are important to get accomplished, but are you more effective when you're creating if you're creating from fear or if you're
No.
creating from being in the flow?
Being in the flow.
Right. So
Well,
that's what we're talking about.
super cool. So it sounds like to me like what you're saying is that you see people and maybe they've accomplished a lot or that they do a lot, and they might either be doing that based on fear, which means they're just in panic mode and frenzy mode, tackling whatever's right in front of them. But then if someone has that desire, maybe they have like a deeper purpose, like more of like a long-term motivator, which sounds like it's more stable. It's more of the way to go. But on the outside looking in, you might have two different people, and one might be going based off fear, one might be going based off the desire. And if we don't look very closely, we might think that it's the same thing until we look at what drives that person.
Well, or one, we might think that the person who's motivated by fear is more successful because they might be driven to have some sort of external success, whereas the other person might have a desire to be surrounded by beauty, love, and harmony. So I'm right, which is and it's really a question of what's the definition of success. My definition of success would be: do I wake up in the morning feeling joyful and happy to be alive and in a state of ease? Doesn't matter, right? That maybe what I do is I spend time tending to my vegetable garden from a place of desire, and from a place of fear I'm having to make $1 million a year so that I can live in a mansion so that I hire gardeners, but ultimately I don't actually ever feel satisfied.
Right. So it's like there's more than one way to be happy, and it's better to find what happiness or what the goal is to you as opposed to just a number in the bank. What would that money get you? Whether that's that's, given back, or buying yourself the freedom not to worry and things like that. And it reminds me of there was like some story about some like rich family or something from the city, and the family went to some like poor farm on vacation, and the kids in the family were like, whoa, these poor farmers, they have it great, because we're in the city, we're cramped up, things are going a mile a minute. Out here on the farm, they have all this land, they have all the time to do what they want, they're peaceful. And it was like the adults in this story or this fable or whatever it came from, the adults were thinking that they were slumming it, and the kids were thinking, oh hey, we got it made going to this farm on vacation. So it's like what do you want, what makes you happy, what makes you fulfilled?
Right, right. And I love that. And I think that the difference is, and it's funny, it's even like in the Declaration of Independence, the pursuit of happiness. Like it's this thing that you're never going to actually get, because happiness is contingent upon things from the outside. I got this thing, I'm happy. I lost it, I'm sad. That's life, right? And
Right.
so what I'm talking about is joy. And joy and happiness are not the same thing. I can feel joy while I'm sad. The joy is like, that's again my life force energy, my connection to this sense, this knowing that I'm an eternal spirit being. I'm alive in this moment. Just the joy of being this life force here. Sometimes I have things that my ego would determine are positive, and sometimes my ego would determine they're negative. That would be happiness and sadness. But joy is like the sun is always out there, whether it's cloudy or not.
Right.
And what is it that I'm really here to cultivate? What's most important? Well, what's most important to me is I want to go through life feeling joy, because the others, everything, this too shall pass. Joy doesn't pass if we're cultivating this true essence, this true connection to this present moment, that in this moment everything's okay. And one day I'll be dead, and that will be okay.
Lots of stuff to think about, and lots of just like new ways to re-examine things that maybe we thought were just black and white, but sort of like some deeper levels and layers to things. And I don't want to keep you here for too long, but we mentioned that the book is the seven principles, and we don't have time to unpack them all, but can you list for us maybe like what are the principles 2 through 7?
Sure. So purpose, passion, prosperity, proactivity, playfulness, and plasticity.
Cool. And then just to kind of give us a little bit of a tease, can you really quickly explain one of these final ones, just to give us like yet one more reason to go check out the book?
Yeah. So prosperity is kind of, I think, going to be the next one that sort of comes up, is particularly if you think of kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Prosperity is this sense of back to thriving, and prosperity is made up of financial prosperity, but it's also made up of physical prosperity, and it's made up of what I was referring to before as sexual prosperity. So all of those, when you think of like, oh, I need to make more money, well, money's not going to get you prosperity. Prosperity is this larger feeling. It includes money, but it needs to be obtained in a sustainable, expansive way. And so again, we hear the stories of the guy who's working 80 hours a week so that he can buy a house for his family, but at the same time, then he never has time to eat well, and lets his body go to hell. So he might have the money, but he doesn't have prosperity. He doesn't have joy. And sort of taking a step back of what are we here to do, and who are we here to be, and what's the experience of this life that we want to have. I have a client who's an artist, and I'm a longtime artist, musician, writer, and I remember reading about like artists who would give their life for their art, and And I long ago went, you know what? I'm not willing to give my life for my art because that's out there. That's an ego thing. That's other people are going to then receive it. My life is my art that I'm giving to myself. And how do I have my life be where my creativity goes? And as a part of that, I make music or whatever, but it's the music of my experience that's the most important thing. You know, look at Van Gogh. Who wants to be Van Gogh?
I mean, I like both my ears.
Yeah, well, both of your ears, and I mean, granted, he created 200 of the best paintings of all time. Good. A lot of did for him. So I'm not looking to sacrifice myself for my art or for anything else. I'm here to. I feel like I'm here for some to be. How do I cultivate joy really, and how do I get in alignment with what I'm here to be? And if I'm meant to be a blade of grass, then let me be the best blade of grass possible, and not feel terrible because I'm not a redwood tree. And who am I supposed to be, and where is my joy? Because and a redwood tree doesn't want to be a blade of grass, and not one is better than the other. But our egos and our culture tell us otherwise, and that's why we're miserable. So my
Interesting.
so
Yeah.
my work with people in terms of self-help, if you will, and again, it is really about self-actualization. Who are you really, and how do you uncover that so that your life moves with the greatest amount of ease? The ability to manifest my desires with ease, not the ability to satisfy my wants with, you know, pain and suffering. That's what mostly is going on out there. I'm not interested in that.
Right, me neither. I'm not interested in just one little piece of it or some kind of a hollow victory. I mean, you think about, I mean, like that's always the thing. Like sometimes we go into things thinking that, money is everything, or we think that, oh, if only I had millions of dollars, and you look at, like, people who win the lottery, and they usually end up either broke or worse off financially than when they started, or are mysteriously murdered or lose all their friends and stuff like that because they got, I mean, like a flood of money, but then none of the other things to really get a handle on that or keep that going, or just find that joy.
Well, right, and look at someone like Donald Trump, right? He is a miserable mofo. He is a miserable human being. He's living in anger and fear, and like there's no joy in his experience whatsoever. So money, even power in that regard has not served him because underneath it all, he's insecure. Underneath it all, he doesn't believe he's worthy of love. He has to have all these trophy wives and trophy houses and all that because underneath it all, he hasn't actually done the work to be a human being. He's a monster and he hates himself.
Right. I mean, a good lesson to be learned, and good way for us to either avoid that or to overcome that if we fall into that sort of mindset. And so I want to make sure that everyone knows all about you and all about the ways that they can get these things corrected in their lives. So can you tell us about like some websites people should go to, or how to check out the book after listening to our conversation today?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is my name, lucasroylehman.com. Lucas Roy Lehman.com. So you just go to my website. You can contact me. You can download my 7 Principles of Personal Power assessment. Is a great place to start to see where you're vibrating in your life, and where you're nailing it, and where there's room for more life. Really, call it improvement or whatever. But where you are is great, and there's always a place for more ease and more joy and more satisfaction, and that assessment is a great place to start. It's free on my website. I also offer complimentary breakthrough coaching sessions to anyone. It's my gift to you to really get a sense of what's available in your life, and how to really expand the quality, satisfaction, joy that's available to you right now and going forward.
Great stuff. So everyone listening, make sure to go to lucasroylehman.com. And you know what it sort of reminds me of, Lucas, is I think it was like some Jerry Seinfeld joke or something where like he went to the gym and he saw all these like super buff jack dudes lifting weights and he's like, why the heck are you at the gym? You're done. You're already there. But like, people like that are looking to up their game, better their best, and know that they've gotten to a certain point, but there's always more. There's always a little more improvement to get, a little more of the edge. And so even if you guys listening out there, if you think you have a handle on things, there's always more to be gained. So there's nothing to be lost by checking out this personal power assessment at lucasroylehman.com. And then if you think that you're a good fit with Lucas and you want to reach out to him, you want to get some of that coaching, some of that one-on-one advice to do even better, then also check out that on the website. So lucasroylehman.com. And I want to thank you, Mr. Lucas, for hopping on and sharing some cool stuff and being real with us and helping us to get to where we need to go. So thank you. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Robert. It's been a pleasure.
We really appreciate you listening to today's episode of Marketer of the Day. Subscribe to us on iTunes and rate and review us at marketeroftheday.com/iTunes.